Don't move. Just listen.
Tombstone is rumored to be the main villain of Spider-Man Brand New Day, alongside Scorpion. With that, I wanted to do a deep dive into Tombstone's character, break him down, talk about his comics, and then go over how his adaptations use his comics to make his character. This man, Tombstone, has tormented Spider-Man's loved ones. He's tormented New York City. Heck, he's even tormented Spider-Man himself. He's a ruthless crime boss, and if you've seen him in Spectacular Spider-Man, you know just how brutal he can be. But at the same time, the 90s show portrays Tombstone to be a way more personal villain who helps bring characters like Robbie Robertson to the forefront of the story. Somehow, both of these shows do their own stories with Tombstone, but both are accurate. Before we jump into this video, I just gotta know, what is your favorite Tombstone adaptation? Please let me know down below. Tombstone is shown off in many different ways in the comics. Only thing for sure is, throughout his comic history, he's evil and twisted. In the comics, Tombstone is shown at various power levels, but narratively, he's strongest to me in his first appearance. This storyline just makes Tombstone feel like an actual character, while also including Robbie and making him feel more like a character as well. Tombstone appears in like 1 or 2 issues of Spider-Man, initially just like popping up in New York City and scaring the hell out of Robbie Robertson. But you don't necessarily know why, or even who he is. And then you get to Spectacular Spider-Man issue 139, and you get the full-fledged backstory between Robbie and Tombstone. Robbie leaves a tape recording for Peter Parker with the full backstory, and Spider-Man plays it. Tombstone's real name is Lonnie Lincoln, and he and Robbie attended high school together. While in high school together, Robbie was running the paper, and, well, Lonnie was a school bully. To the extent where Robbie was even writing a paper about how much of a bully Lonnie is. It's crazy. Have you guys ever read your school paper? Imagine you open up your school paper to find out somebody wrote an article about you, about how much of a bully you are, which Lonnie was, so it wasn't without like cause, but it's just insanity that this would ever be approved about another student in the class. You think they would just like get in trouble for the stuff they were doing, but I digress. So Robbie was gonna write this paper on him, and Lonnie's like, nah, I don't think so. So Lonnie beats the brakes off of him until Robbie agrees that he's not going to write the paper. This actually crushed Robbie. It broke him so badly he swore he'd report every story and never go back on his word. But later, after moving to Philly, he got a job as a crime beat reporter. On the job, he got a call that a man knew who had killed a recently slain mafia boss. Robbie raced over to the caller to get the information in person, but when he arrived, Tombstone was there. He had already strangled the man to death. Robbie was flustered, and Tombstone was pretty much just like, you're not gonna report it, old Robbie pal, right? And Robbie was scared. So Robbie was so scared, he fled the town immediately, packed up his things and family, and he moved to New York City and got a job at the Bugle. This is where we are now, where him and Tombstone had their most recent run-in. Spider-Man hears all this on the tapes, and he's just like, damn, I gotta find Robbie. He could be in trouble. He can't really find him, so he goes and finds somebody who knows where Tombstone is, and he tells him where Tombstone's gonna be. Tombstone and Robbie were both at Battery Park. Robbie had met with Tombstone in Battery Park and tried to give him a citizen's arrest. This is when Tombstone attacked Robbie, and Robbie quickly pulls out a gun and shoots Tombstone, but the bullet hits Tombstone's vest. Tombstone then pulls a Bane on this man, and he literally breaks Robbie's back. Spider-Man arrives just too late, as all he sees on the ground is Robbie broken. Just literally broken. It's wild. But the story continues. Robbie is in the hospital, and he would wake up to his loved ones being around him, and Spider-Man outside the window listening in like, damn, Robbie's really hurt. I gotta go swing off and see if I can find more information. And then his family also leaves the room too. But who was secretly hiding in the room all along? Tombstone. Tombstone had warned Robbie that if he were to tell anybody of anything that had happened, he would kill his entire family, and this broke Robbie. He was already physically broken and destroyed, but now he was both mentally and spiritually broken as well. He would go and tell Peter Parker not to report anything that happened on the tapes that he had told him. Peter Parker's a little irate. He's kind of pissed. He's like, this guy is evil. You're going to let him tell you what to do? You said you would never go back on your word. Now you're going back on your word again. And, he's trying to figure out what had happened there, And he does learn that Tombstone was willing to kill Robbie's family, so Robbie had to back off. Spider-Man does his own research to figure out exactly what's going on, and he runs into the Punisher. The two look like they're going to fight each other, but Spider-Man and Punisher just actually end up talking things out on a boat. But Tombstone had trailed them to the boat, and he had his men wait there. He had his men waiting there until the moment was just right for them to attack Frank Castle, because Tombstone was paid by Kingpin to get Frank Castle to follow them and lure him into their trap. At the same time, though, Tombstone notices that Spider-Man's swinging away from the Punisher, and Tombstone questions to himself, I wonder if I could beat a costume clown like Spider-Man. Well, as you'd have it, these two would get a fight against one another when Tombstone is looking for Peter to get the tape recording. He tells Peter to meet him at a location, but of course, Spider-Man shows up instead. When he does arrive, Tombstone's actually like hiding, waiting, and he surprise attacks Spider-Man, and he's getting his rocks off. He's trouncing the old webhead a bit. This is until Spider-Man stops messing around, and he beats the ever-living breaks off of Tombstone. At the same time, though, Robbie gathers the people of the Bugle to his hospital bed so he can make an official statement regarding Tombstone and all of his crimes. It's flashing back and forth. We see Spider-Man fighting, and we see Robbie bringing justice to the situation. It's all beautiful on all fronts. You have a superhero standing up to a supervillain. You have a civilian standing up to a supervillain. It's all beautiful. I loved it. One thing I do want us to go back to really quickly, super briefly, is the fact that Tombstone's over here saying, I wonder how I would fare against that costume clown. Well, buddy, I think we found out just well and dandy and good just how you would fare against this costume clown we all like to call the webhead. You got smoked, buddy. Absolutely dominated. But what could be the most interesting part of it all is at the ending of the fight between Spider-Man and Tombstone. Before Spider-Man delivers the final blow, knocking him off the building into, like, some rubble, he asks Tombstone why he didn't kill Robbie. That's when Tombstone replies, how could I kill Robbie? That's my friend. It's like, damn, he was a terrible, terrible person to Robbie. But in his own mind, this was someone he actually didn't want to have to get rid of. Robbie had theorized Tombstone killed over 100 people. So clearly the man had no qualms with murder. He had no problems murdering people. But Lonnie Lincoln just couldn't murder his friend Robbie Roberson. Just couldn't do it. They even have another arc after this where they're both in prison together as well. And you can really see Tombstone thought of him as a friend in his own sick and twisted way. Like, really twisted and sick, honestly. I love these two characters' dynamic, and I love how it brings Robbie to the forefront of Amazing Spider-Man. That's really what I love so much about Amazing Spider-Man back in the day. You have Spider-Man and his adventures, but his adventures almost always looped back into his Peter Parker side life somehow, right? People like J. Jonah Jameson getting attacked by a scorpion and Spider-Man getting into the mix. Venom coming to his house, knocking on his door, meeting Aunt May, like stuff like that. Like, yeah, he's got these problems he gets from being Spider-Man, but it somehow loops around to Peter Parker. Kind of like how Robbie is now being looped into the fray because of something that happened to him earlier, and it's also Spider-Man's villain as well. That's what I really like about Tombstone having a strong narrative. He does help bring the rest of the mythos full circle. More recently, though, in the comics, you'll find Tombstone as the main villain for the Zeb Wells run. I don't really like this run, but I'm not going to lie, Tombstone's part in it was definitely not the worst thing in it. It actually had some solid beats. In this run, he's the big bad of New York City. He rules the crime world while also being vastly stronger than he ever was shown to be before. Like, he's like beating the brakes off of Spider-Man, even though back in the day he was getting trounced by him. What I did like about Zeb Wells' Tombstone was they managed to have him still be smart. He was able to outsmart Spider-Man in certain facets, you know? He would trick him because, you know, he's a crime lord, and this is a world that Spider-Man is not really known to indulge himself with. Yes, Spider-Man's a super genius, but is he a crime lord super genius? I don't think so, personally. So I personally do like that facet of the Zeb Wells run. At least when you put it like singled out like that. I don't mind it. I think it's pretty solid, and I like it. Especially because they also show Spider-Man getting the upper hand on him as well once he gets used to like, Tombstone's tricks and whatnot. So overall, I think that's a very well done part about it. But I prefer the character in a more personal role with Robbie. I think it just really helps bring the whole mythos around full circle. But when you look at Zeb Wells, it's not terrible. I think the worst part of it that we all have to recognize and just like we can really reconcile with each other is that this character should not be this strong. Tombstone should never be shown to be this strong. He was being Spider-Man like left and right in this entire run. And like that doesn't make any sense to me because Spider-Man's taken on people well above Tombstone. So for me personally, that's the only real major issue I had. Tombstone getting out of jail constantly is kind of a thing about his character, so I can't even fault that too much. It was annoying in the run, but that's also an annoying thing about Tombstone he's always been able to do. So that's fine to me. It's really just how strong they showed him. It's like, dude, he's not that guy, pal. He's not that guy. Tombstone in the comics was originally shown to be a smaller scale villain. He wasn't too powerful or strong, and he had a connection with Robbie that links him with Spider-Man. But nowadays, Tombstone has shown to be a much more capable and powerful villain. A character that is shown both so small time and narrative based, but also shown to be so powerful and damn near like Kingpin Jr. when it came to this criminal empire, allows you to adapt him pretty much any way you want. You know, he was shown in different lights. I mean, one adaptation in particular had him in the role of Kingpin essentially, but they still managed to give the character a great narrative. But I say this to say the character's pretty open-ended at this point, and in my opinion, there's not too many ways you can adapt him wrong. Heck, some adaptations give him a completely new story entirely, and still a strong narrative is delivered in that story. And others hardly give him any narratives to work with, and it's still fun to see the character. Let's talk about some of Tombstone's adaptations.
I'm gonna take you down once and for all.
And how do you plan to pull that off?
Simple. I'm not afraid of the police.
No!
The first ever adaptation of Tombstone was in the 90s cartoon, and this version of the character does the narrative with Robbie Roberson. This is probably my favorite adaptation of the character because it's pretty akin to the comics. It's not the exact same, but it's definitely the closest you have on the list, and it's pretty good too. It's not the exact same storyline for Tombstone bullying Robbie into not writing a paper when they're in high school, but the show does have Tombstone and Robbie both as childhood friends, and ever since their past when Lonnie was found guilty of a crime they were both at the scene of the crime for, Robbie has been scared of Lonnie going for revenge. That is until Lonnie finally does go for revenge, and he gets Randy wrapped up in all of his gang's mess. Yeah, he gets Robbie's son wrapped up into it. Robbie has to stand up for his family and show his son, Randy, no matter how scary someone is, you have to do what's right. Banger storyline, right, people? This is amazing. This show actually does another storyline in which Robbie is framed and goes to jail. While in there, it's revealed it was all ploy by Tombstone to get Robbie inside the same jail cell that he's in for ratting him out. This is quite literally the actual comic book storyline. How he gets into jail? Way different. Don't get me wrong, that's different. But Tombstone getting Robbie into jail so he can mess with him for ratting on him, that actually happens in the comics. It's so perfect. It's so good. I love how accurate this show is and just how much of an emphasis this show puts on Robbie and Tombstone's dynamic. That's literally how he was introduced. So in my opinion, it's the best way to adapt him. I love this adaptation. Spectacular Spider-Man would use Tombstone in a completely different way from his first adaptation in the 90s though.
In my life, I've been called many names. My favorite is Tombstone.
Whereas the 90s show had Robbie and Tombstone's personal dynamic, Spectacular Spider-Man did not. Instead, it features Tombstone as the crime boss for all of New York City. This is actually due to rights issues. It was supposed to be Kingpin, but they had to go with Tombstone instead to fill the role. I actually don't think it's a bad choice though. Like we said earlier in this video, Zeb Wells would also use Tombstone to be a massive crime boss ruling over all of New York City. It's not far-fetched that this could happen, but what's crazy is Spectacular Spider-Man came out first. It came out like 15 years beforehand, if not more. About 15 years or so. So it's just pretty cool that Spectacular Spider-Man's like, this is a great idea, and then like a couple decade and plus later, a writer's like, yeah, this is a great idea. So I like that a lot. The show has Tombstone be cunning, strong, and evil, but he was always rational when he could be to not let anyone know who he really was. He didn't want anyone to know he's the literal kingpin of crime. As the big boss, it's actually his plan in the show to go through Oscorp to help create supervillains to distract Spider-Man so Tombstone can continue to run his criminal enterprise. It's actually so well done too. It's not too accurate, but the showrunners wrote it so well that the narrative changes don't matter. It's just a genuinely well-written character in a badass show. To me, the character is most interesting when he has to work with others or keep his identity secret. Like the 2 times he works with Spider-Man to fight the Green Goblin in this show, both are peak. You have the ultimate good guy versus the ultimate bad guy of the show, and they have to team up to fight the ultimate crazy guy of the show. But then you've got like scenes when Tombstone is at the opera. Him and all the villains are fighting each other and the civilians are onlooking, so Tombstone chooses to help Spider-Man out because he doesn't want to look like a bad guy in front of the civilians. He has an image to uphold. But then when they go underground in the sewers, Tombstone betrays Spider-Man and literally tries to kill him where no one can see. I love this so much because much like Spider-Man, Tombstone has his own secret identity he wants to conceal, and it really helps him mirror Spider-Man in this show. This show does a phenomenal job with its Tombstone adaptation. Next up, we got your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and in this version of Tombstone is completely new. He's not really based on any comics I've ever read. Lonnie Lincoln was never a classmate of Peter Parker's. If anything, he's usually shown to be like 20 years older, if not more.
Man, it took you long enough. Yeah, sorry, Tombstone.
This version is nothing like the comics, so it's certainly not accurate. However, I found this narrative still very compelling. This version puts Lonnie as Peter's classmate. He's a great kid. He's super smart. He's super gifted athletically. He's going to go to college. He's supposed to be moving his family out of the hood. He's got scouts looking at him for all of his football games he's in. He has the life set up perfectly for him to move his family out, get his family out of the trenches, and really make something of his own life. Then his brother gets caught in a gang. The only way to get his brother out of the gang is to take his brother's spot in the gang. And as the story goes on, he has to start quitting everything he loves so he can keep helping the gang. He has to quit football. He has to quit academics. He no longer is around for his brother either. And you know what? He actually begins to like it too. Oh my God, it was heartbreaking to watch, but it's pretty well done, I'm not gonna lie. They have this character go from being the smart, good guy, good kid who's got everything, his whole future ahead of him, he's gonna move his family out of the hood, turns him into this like gang lord, right? Like, I mean, to the extent that like he wasn't a gang lord originally, but in the show, when the leader of his gang runs off, Tombstone steps up and actually helps save every single member of his gang, and they pretty much just champion him as their new gang leader. It's so sad. But you have a character who never really found what he was looking for and what he loved to do. That's the saddest part about him. He was really great at academics. He was really great at football. But you know where he really felt like he was making a difference and changing people's lives? That was in the gang. And that's a very real thing that happens in our society. So I love that this is a narrative they went with in the show. Because when you're doing, like, when you're in high school and you're getting A's in classes and stuff like that, you're not really seeing your parents, like, if they're struggling with work or whatever, like, they don't have a lot of money, they're not getting any money from you doing well, right? You're not seeing anybody in your neighborhood doing better because you're getting A's in class. But maybe if you're in a gang, you can help protect people. Maybe you can, like, you know, run up deals so you can get money for your family. None of this is inherently good stuff, but you're trying to look out for people the only way you think you know how to, especially at your young age. I actually thought this was a very well done character, and I can't wait to see what they do with him in season 2 and onwards after that. Tombstone also appears in Spider-Verse.
You messed up big time, kid. Very sloppy.
This is a very minor role. He's not really in it too much. He's the guy in the background. He's on Kingpin's payroll. I don't think he really says too much or is like too important to the narrative, but he's there. He's definitely there. He pulls the guns on Lady Doc Ock when she attacks him. That was pretty cool. His design looks really great. He's like suave, yet he's gangster. Something that has to be said though when it comes to this character, it's the voice actor. This is possibly the greatest voice acting cast of all time. Not even exaggerating for such a small role, but I just think it's a unique ability to cast somebody like this. It was very well done. Marvin Jones is the VA for him in this movie. And why I find it so unique and so well done is because the man, Marvin Jones himself, is a black man who has albinism. So this is exactly akin to Tombstone, no? Because Tombstone is also a black man who suffers from albinism. This is a phenomenal casting on the perception alone, and the man did a great job lending his voice to the project as well. He didn't get enough material in my opinion, but whatever he was given, he did a phenomenal job putting out there. Insomniac Spider-Man. Tombstone isn't the main villain by any means, but he certainly is in the Insomniac Spider-Man franchise. I actually think even though he's not in it much, he actually does serve an important role in the story. In the first game, he's a small-time criminal running a small gang, and you gotta beat his ass. And you do. It's a hell of a fight. It's sick. You clearly both parties have mutual respect for each other as well. However, after you beat Tombstone, he actually comes out the better. He reforms, and he gets an actual job at Coney Island as he tries to leave a life of crime behind himself. It's not a big role, sure, but it shows that not every single person Spider-Man beats up and puts behind bars is going to come back out and try and do more crime. This shows that Spider-Man actually does rehabilitate people. He does help people, and what he does on the streets actually matters. Tombstone is proof of that in this game. All right, we've been through all the adaptations that are out right now, or at least all the big ones, all the real main hitter ones. We got to talk about the last thing. Brand New Day, Spider-Man Brand New Day. Brand New Day heavily rumors Tombstone to be in it as well. It's very much up in the air who the villains actually are outside of Scorpion. We don't really know. A lot of people are theorizing Mr. Negative for a sign we saw in the tank and a lot of the concept art we see. But I'm hearing a lot of Tombstone nowadays. And knowing that Tombstone has a comic with both Spider-Man and Punisher leads me to believe that he is going to be the choice for this movie because they're all here. It makes sense. I think Tombstone can be a great villain for a movie. I actually love to see it. And do you know who I think would play a great Tombstone? Marvin Jones, unquestionably. If he wanted to, I think he would be amazing at it. He's super imposing. He's super intimidating. I think he would be a great casting for the role. It's quite literally the perfect cast. If he wants to do it, we gotta let him do it. I see no other person for the role. But all in all, I think Tombstone really could be a great villain for the movie. He is a great villain overall. I think he gets a lot of bad rep because of Zeb Wells' run, but when you actually read a lot of his stories or see him in adaptations, you tend to like the character. He's pretty cool. So, for me, I really like Tombstone, man. I really, really do. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video about me talking about Tombstone and breaking him down a bit, talking about his comics. I hope you guys learned something about Tombstone. Let me know down below what you think about Tombstone. And yeah, I think that's about it for me. I have a description down below. My Discord's in there, as is my Patreon. Check it out. And yeah, that's it for me. Dunk out. Peace.